The beer mug shattered against the wooden floor with a sharp crack, instantly silencing O'Connell's roadhouse. "You think you're above us?" Cobra Malone's voice cut through the stillness like a knife, his massive hand gripping the collar of the petite woman who'd been wiping down tables. The viper tattoo coiling around his thick neck seemed to pulse as he yanked her closer, his breath heavy with whiskey and menace. "I asked you a simple question, darling. Does this bar pay for protection, or does it burn?" "What's it gonna be?" Sofia Martinez kept her gaze locked on the floor, her posture radiating submission, even as 10 members of the Sand Serpents Motorcycle Club rose from their chairs, forming a menacing ring around her. She stood barely 5'4" in her worn sneakers, her loose white server's shirt hanging off her slender frame. Her dark hair, pulled back in a plain ponytail, made her seem younger than her 35 years. Everything about her screamed ordinary, unremarkable, fragile. But in precisely 15 minutes, Cobra Malone would be on his knees, pleading for mercy. Before we dive deeper into this remarkable moment of transformation, I'm curious, have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Maybe you assumed someone was weak, only to find they possessed a strength you couldn't fathom. Share your stories in the comments below. I read every single one. These moments remind us how often we make perilous assumptions. And if stories of hidden warriors and unlikely heroes resonate with you as they do with me, please consider hitting that thanks button. Your support keeps us sharing these powerful true stories that show real strength often hides in the most unexpected forms. The tension in O'Connell's roadhouse had been simmering for 20 minutes before the glass shattered. The Sand Serpents had roared in just after 8 p.m., their Harley's thunderous rumble signaling their arrival and tensing every patron in the small roadside bar. This wasn't their first visit to businesses along the highway near Camp Pendleton, and their reputation loomed like a storm cloud. 3 bars in the past month had mysteriously burned down after refusing their protection services. 2 owners had landed in hospitals with injuries they claimed were accidental. Sofia had watched them enter while methodically folding napkins at the service station, her movements precise and deliberate. Ethan, the 25-year-old bartender, began sweating the moment he spotted the skull patches on their leather vests. "That's them," he'd whispered to Sofia, "the Sand Serpents. They're the ones who torched Moretti's place in Oceanside." She'd only nodded, continuing to fold napkins into perfect triangles, each one identical. Ethan had noticed this about Sofia in the 6 months she de-worked at O'Connell, as everything she did carried an almost military precision. The way she cleaned tables in neat grid patterns, the way she aligned condiments with geometric accuracy, the way she never turned her back to the door for more than a few seconds. Cobra Malone had strode in like a conquering emperor, his 6'3" frame swaggering through the door, arms spread wide. The viper tattoo that earned him his nickname began at his jaw and vanished into his leather vest, his shaved head gleaming under the bar's amber lights. His 9 companions fanned out behind him in what Sofia silently noted was a tactically sound formation, covering exits, maintaining sight lines, asserting control over the space. "Evening, folks," Cobra had declared to the dozen or so regulars, his voice laced with the false warmth that often precedes violence. "Don't mind us. Just here for a friendly drink and a little business chat." The regulars, mostly veterans from the nearby base and local blue-collar workers, shifted uneasily in their seats. Sheriff John Carter, a weathered 55-year-old who'd served 2 tours in Iraq before becoming a lawman, had been sipping coffee in the corner booth. He set his cup down slowly, his calloused hand resting near his hip, where his service weapon would have been if he were on duty. Sophia had approached their table with her order pad, eyes down, voice soft. "What can I get you, gentlemen?" That's when trouble first sparked. One biker, a scrawny man with meth-rotted teeth, had slapped her backside as she passed. "How about a smile, sweetheart? You look like someone kicked your dog." She'd sidestepped with a fluid motion that seemed accidental but wasn't, continuing to take their orders without acknowledging the insult. Ethan had started to move from behind the bar, his young face red with anger, but Sophia caught his eye and gave a subtle shake of her head. The bikers ordered beer, lots of it, and Sophia served them efficiently, silently. Then she felt Cobra's attention lock onto her like a spotlight. She'd been wiping down a nearby table when he called out, "Hey, server girl, where's O'Connell? We need to talk business." "Mr. O'Connell is in Tucson for the week," Sophia replied quietly, avoiding his gaze. "I'm just covering shifts." "Well then," Cobra stood, his massive frame casting a shadow over her. "I guess you'll have to pass along the message. Tell O'Connell the Sand Serpents are offering protection services to this fine establishment. $5,000 a month, and we ensure nothing bad happens here." Sophia kept wiping the already spotless table. "I'll let him know you stopped by." That's when Cobra's tone shifted from false friendliness to outright menace. "I don't think you get it, darling. This isn't a request. It's a requirement. Every bar from here to San Diego is under our protection. Those that refuse—" He pulled out a lighter, flicking it open and closed with practiced threat. "Well, accidents happen. Electrical fires, gas leaks, tragic stuff." "I understand," Sophia said softly. "But I can't make decisions for Mr. O'Connell. I just serve drinks and clean tables." The bikers' formation around her had a name in military tactics: encirclement. But Sophia had already noted a flaw in their positioning. The one by the jukebox favored a bad knee. She'd seen his slight limp when he entered. The two by the pool table were more focused on looking intimidating than observing, missing Sheriff Carter's subtle shift to a better defensive position. Cobra himself stood too close, inside the reactionary gap, a mistake rooted in overconfidence. Sophia's fingers brushed the small metal dog tag hidden under her loose shirt, warm against her skin, a reminder of who she'd been, who she was trying not to be. 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, 15 confirmed kills, 4 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, all locked away in a storage unit with her dress blues and gunnery sergeant chevrons. She'd come to O'Connell seeking quiet, peace, a place to be invisible, pouring drinks for people who didn't know the weight of blood on your hands. But trouble, it seemed, had a knack for finding Marines, even retired ones trying to blend into civilian life. Sophia slipped her hand to her pocket, checking her reinforced tactical smartphone, its military-grade aluminum casing cool against her palm. Its encrypted communication and satellite connectivity were built for extreme conditions, a habit she couldn't shake. The phone's security features meant she could call for backup who'd understand the situation, though she'd sworn she'd never use those contacts again. She slid it back into her pocket as silently as she'd drawn it. "Look," Cobra said, his patience visibly thinning. "I'm trying to be nice, but you're making this hard. How about this? You seem like a smart girl. Convince O'Connell to see things our way, and maybe I'll toss in a bonus for you." "What do you make here?" Minimum wage plus tips? I could make sure you're taken care of." "Thank you, but I'm fine with my current arrangement," Sophia replied, finally meeting his eyes. Her brown eyes were calm, almost serene, which seemed to enrage him more than defiance would have. That's when he grabbed her upper arm, squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Listen, you stuck-up little, I'm going to have to ask you to take your hand off the lady," Sheriff Carter interrupted, standing from his booth, his voice carrying the authority of a man used to being obeyed. Even in civilian clothes, his soldier's bearing was unmistakable. Cobra laughed, not releasing Sophia. "And what are you gonna do about it, old man? You're off duty, out of your jurisdiction, and outnumbered 10-1. Sit down before you get hurt." But the sheriff didn't back down, and Sophia noticed several other patrons, 5 with unit pins or military tattoos, shift in their seats, ready to support him. The air in O'Connell's thickened with the promise of violence. "John, it's okay," Sophia said softly, using the sheriff's first name. "These gentlemen were just leaving." That's when Cobra made his fatal mistake. He yanked her closer, his other hand grabbing her collar. "You don't tell us when we leave. We leave when we're ready, and right now, I'm thinking we need to teach this bar a lesson in respect." Chairs scraped across the floor as more patrons stood. Ethan gripped the baseball bat kept behind the bar. But Cobra's focus was entirely on Sophia, on asserting dominance, on breaking what he saw as defiance from someone who should have been trembling. "You know your problem?" he snarled, his face inches from hers. "You think you're better than us. Think you're too good to show proper respect. Maybe I need to remind you of your place." His free hand bunched the front of her shirt in his fist. Sophia stayed perfectly still, her breathing steady, her eyes unwavering. To everyone watching, she looked like a frightened server trying not to escalate things. But Sheriff Carter, with his 2 combat tours, saw something else. The way her weight shifted to the balls of her feet, the positioning of her hands, the angle of her body creating space for movement. "Last chance," Cobra growled. "Call O'Connell now and tell him he's got a new business partner, or things get ugly for everyone here." "I can't do that," Sophia said simply. That's when her shirt tore. The sound of ripping fabric cut through the bar like a gunshot, the white cotton splitting from collar to mid-chest as Cobra yanked with all his strength. Sophia stumbled back, the ruined shirt hanging open, revealing a black tank top underneath. But it was what the tank top exposed that changed everything. The silence that followed was deafening, the jukebox seeming to pause between tracks, as if the universe itself needed a moment to absorb what was revealed. Across Sophia Martinez's back, visible through the thin tank top, was a tattoo that told a story of service, sacrifice, and elite warrior status. The eagle, globe, and anchor of the United States Marine Corps stretched majestically across her shoulder blades, the eagle's feathers so detailed they seemed to flutter. Below it, in bold letters, read "First Force Recon," marking her as a member of one of the Marine Corps' most elite special operations units. Beneath that, Gunny S. Martinez, 0311, the Morse code for infantry, the tip of the spear, those who go where others dare not. But the tattoo was only half the story. Surrounding it were scars that spoke to those who knew how to read them. A puckered bullet wound near her left shoulder, shrapnel marks along her ribs, a long, jagged scar vanishing under the tank top's hem, hinting at a blade wound that had demanded serious medical care. Cobra Malone stood frozen, still clutching the torn fabric, his mouth slightly agape as his mind struggled to process what he saw. His fellow sand serpents went equally still, their predatory confidence draining like sand from an hourglass. "Force Recon," Sheriff Carter whispered, his voice carrying in the silence. Holy hell! Sophia's demeanor shifted subtly but unmistakably. She didn't take a fighting stance or make any overt threat, but something in her posture changed, like a switch flipping from civilian to warrior. Her shoulders squared, her chin lifted, and when she spoke, her voice had shed its submissive tone. "Mr. Malone," she said, using Cobra's real name, which she shouldn't have known. "I believe you owe me an apology for damaging my property." The room's atmosphere shifted, like the air before a storm. Cobra's face cycled through confusion, recognition, disbelief, and finally the sickening realization that he'd made a colossal mistake. His grip on the torn fabric loosened, the cotton fluttering to the floor like a white flag. "How do you know my name?" His voice lost its commanding tone, rising with uncertainty. Sophia didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned slowly, letting everyone see the military artwork and battle scars across her back. Several phones were out now, recording what felt like a moment worth remembering. But Sophia seemed oblivious to the attention. "Daniel Malone," she said calmly. "Dishonorably discharged from the Army 6 years ago for stealing and selling military equipment. Founded the Sand Serpents 3 years ago. Currently wanted for questioning in 4 arson cases and 2 aggravated assaults." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I make it my business to know who's threatening the establishments in my area of operation." "Your area," Cobra started, then stopped, the full weight of her words hitting him like a freight train. From the corner booth, a grizzled man in his 60s stood slowly. Sophia had served him coffee every Tuesday for 6 months, unaware he was Colonel Robert Thompson, retired Medal of Honor recipient. "Gunny Martinez," he said, his voice carrying the snap of command despite his civilian attire. "First Force Recon, I remember you now. Operation Phantom Fury, Fallujah, 2004. Sophia's stance shifted slightly, an instinctive response to a superior officer. "Sir, you re the one who held that schoolhouse for 17 hours with a broken rifle and 3 magazines while evac choppers fought to get through." "It wasn't a question. I had help, sir." "Lance Corporal Davis and PFC Lee." Her voice caught on their names. "They didn't make it out." Another patron stood Clara Rivera, who ran the flower shop nearby. No one knew she'd been a Navy corpsman attached to Marine units. "I was at Camp Leatherneck when they brought you in. 60% burns, 3 bullet wounds, enough shrapnel to trip a metal detector at 50 yards. The doctor said you'd never walk again." "Doctors can be wrong," Sophia said simply. The Sand Serpents were edging toward the door, their formation crumbling, but they found their path blocked by 5 men who'd quietly repositioned themselves during the exchange. Each carried the unmistakable bearing of someone who'd seen real combat, not the bar brawls the bikers were used to. "Leaving already?" asked one, a Hispanic man with sergeant stripes tattooed on his forearm. "You haven't apologized to the lady yet." Cobra's face flushed, torn between humiliation and the need to save face. "Look, we didn't know she was, if we'd known." "Known what?" Sophia stepped forward, and despite being nearly a foot shorter, Cobra flinched back. "That I'd bled for this country? That I'd earned the right to be treated with basic respect? Or just that I could hurt you in ways you can't even imagine?" During the standoff, Sophia's hand drifted to her lower back, where a compact medical kit was hidden under her server's apron. The professional-grade trauma supplies military hemostatic agents, combat medications, advanced clotting compounds, and pain management tools had saved lives in Iraq and Afghanistan. She carried them out of habit, a Marine always prepared, even in a roadside bar. The kit's weight was comforting, though she hoped she'd never need it again. "All of the above," Cobra mumbled, his voice barely audible. Sheriff Carter had moved closer, his hand resting casually on his phone. "Ms. Martinez, want to press charges for assault? We've got plenty of witnesses to the unwanted touching and property damage." Sophia considered, then shook her head. "No need, Sheriff. I think Mr. Malone and his friends were just leaving and won't be back. Will you, Mr. Malone?" The threat in her voice was subtle but clear. Cobra nodded quickly, his shaved head bobbing. "No, ma'am, we won't be back. In fact, we'll make sure everyone knows O'Connell is off-limits." "Completely off-limits." "And the other businesses you've been threatening," Sophia added, her tone making it clear this wasn't a suggestion. "We'll reconsider our business model," Cobra stammered. "Kneel." The command snapped like a whip, and Cobra dropped to his knees before his brain could catch up. It was the voice of someone accustomed to absolute obedience in life-or-death situations. "Ma'am," he said, looking up, equal parts confused and terrified. "You assaulted me, destroyed my property, threatened my workplace and colleagues," Sophia said, her voice calm, almost conversational. "In some places I've operated, you'd already be dead. But we do things differently here. So you'll apologize properly, then leave and spread the word that this entire county is under the protection of Marines, who've seen scarier things than you on our easiest days." Cobra's apology was halting but genuine, delivered on his knees before his crew and a bar full of witnesses. When Sophia nodded her acceptance, he scrambled to his feet and headed for the door, his fellow serpents trailing like chastened dogs. At the threshold, he turned back. "Can I ask, why hide it? Why pretend to be just a server?" Sophia's expression softened slightly. "Because, Mr. Malone, real warriors don't need to advertise. We carry our strength quietly and use it only when necessary. I came here for peace, to serve coffee and clean tables, to feel normal again. You took that from me tonight." The bikers left without another word, their motorcycles starting with far less bravado than when they'd arrived. Through the window, patrons watched them vanish into the night, and everyone knew they wouldn't return. The bar stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Colonel Thompson spoke. "Gunny, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing here? With your record, you could be doing anything private security, law enforcement, teaching at Quantico." Sophia picked up her torn shirt, folding it with the same precision as her napkins. "With respect, sir, I've done my time being extraordinary. I've been the tip of the spear, the first through the door, the last one out. I've got 47 confirmed kills and probably twice that unconfirmed. I've got a box of medals in storage and nightmares that wake me at 0300 every night." She moved behind the bar, pulling a spare O'Connell's shirt from the employee cubby. "I came here because no one knew me. I could pour coffee for construction workers without them thanking me for my service with that look part awe, part pity, part fear. But they ran you out," Clara Rivera said softly. "Those punks took your piece." "No," Sophia replied, buttoning the fresh shirt with steady hands. They reminded me of something I'd nearly forgotten. Peace isn't found by hiding. It's created by standing your ground. Ethan, who'd been frozen behind the bar, finally spoke. Sophia, I had no idea. 6 months working together, and I never. That was the point, Ethan. She smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from her. I didn't want to be Gunnery Sergeant Martinez, Force Recon Marine. I wanted to be Sophia, who keeps your coffee fresh and your tables clean. But you're a hero, someone called from the back. Sophia's expression tightened. No, Davis and Lee were heroes. They died protecting civilians. I'm just too stubborn to die and too broken to do anything but survive. Colonel Thompson approached the bar, his movements respectful. Gunny, we don't know each other well. But what you did in Fallujah holding that position, protecting those kids, Davis and Lee didn't die for nothing. 37 children made it out because of you three. Sophia's hands paused on the bar towels she'd been folding. 38, sir. One more was born on the evac chopper. Mother named her Sophia. The room fell silent, the weight of that revelation settling like a sacred vow. Here was a woman who'd given her body as a shield for strangers, paid in blood and burns, and chosen to fade into anonymity, serving beer and wiping tables. So what now? Ethan asked. Everyone's gonna know. Word will spread. You can't stay invisible. Sophia resumed her duties, collecting glasses and wiping tables as if nothing had happened. Then I'll be visible, but on my terms. Over the next hour, the bar returned to something like normal. Conversations restarted, drinks were ordered. The jukebox played its usual mix of rock and country. But the energy had shifted. People sat taller. Veterans who'd silently battled PTSD began talking, sharing stories they'd kept buried. Sophia's revelation had given them permission to be themselves. Sheriff Carter approached her as she served a table of construction workers. Sophia, I should have stepped in sooner. I saw the signs, how you move, how you observe, but I didn't connect the dots. Nothing to apologize for, Sheriff. You tried to de-escalate, exactly as you should. She paused. Army, right? Iraq? He nodded. 2 tours, infantry. Nothing special. Just a grunt doing his job. Every soldier's special, Sheriff. Everyone who stands up when others won't, who goes where others fear. Don't diminish your service. As the night wore on, Sophia answered curious patrons with her usual quiet efficiency. Yes, she'd been in Force Recon. No, she couldn't discuss most missions. Yes, the scars ached in the rain. No, she didn't regret her service, just some of its costs. Around 11 p.m., a young woman approached hesitantly, no older than 22, with a runner's build and a 1,000-yard stare Sophia knew too well. Ma'am, I'm Lance Corporal Emily Clark, just back from Afghanistan. I heard what happened, what you said about not going back to normal. Her voice dropped. How do you do it? How do you come back and function? Sophia set down her tray, giving the young Marine her full attention. You don't come back, Lance Corporal. Not really. The person who left is gone. You build a new person from the pieces that survived and find a new mission. What's yours? She gestured around the bar. This is mine serving people, creating a place where veterans don't have to explain themselves, where civilians learn we're not broken, just different. Where someone like you can ask someone like me how to survive and get an honest answer. One day, one table, one act of service at a time. The skills that made us good Marines, attention to detail, mission dedication, protecting others, they don't vanish. We just find new ways to use them. As closing time neared, Sophia and Ethan cleaned up alone. The young bartender kept glancing at her, brimming with questions. "Go ahead," she said. "Do you regret it, your cover being blown?" Sophia considered as she flipped chairs onto tables for mopping. "No, I've been hiding for 3 years, pretending that part of me didn't exist, but it does. It's as much me as my eyes or hands. Maybe it's time to stop running." "Will you stay at O'Connell's? Where else would I go?" "This is my post now, and Marines don't abandon their posts." The next morning, Sophia arrived to find the parking lot unusually full for a Saturday. Word had spread, and veterans from 3 counties came to see the Force Recon Marine who defaced down a biker gang with quiet authority. But Sophia didn't make a spectacle. She tied on her apron, brewed fresh coffee, and took orders. When people thanked her for her service, she accepted graciously but shifted the focus to their lives, their stories. When young veterans sought advice, she listened more than she spoke. O'Connell, back from Tucson, pulled her aside during the lunch rush. "Sophia, I heard what happened. If you need time off or want to quit, all due respect, Mr. O'Connell, I've got tables to serve." She smiled slightly. "Besides, I think business is about to pick up. Every veteran in Southern California will want to visit the bar where a Force Recon Marine serves." She was right. Over the following weeks, O'Connell's Roadhouse transformed into an unofficial veterans hub. The walls filled with donated photos and memorabilia. A corner gained a small library of military history books. Tuesdays became Veterans Night with Sophia's quiet approval. But the biggest change was in Sophia herself. She still wore the simple server's uniform, still cleaned with meticulous precision, still ensured every glass was full, but she no longer hunched to seem smaller. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone with nothing left to prove or hide. 3 months later, Sophia received a package at the bar. Inside was a polished purple heart with a note. "Gunny Martinez, you left this at Leatherneck. Thought you might want it back. Corman Rivera." Sophia held the medal, then hung it on the wall beside a photo someone had found. 3 Marines in combat gear, faces dirty but smiling, standing before a bullet-riddled schoolhouse. The caption read, "Heroes of Fallujah, LCPL Davis, PFC Lee, Gunny Martinez." "You know," Ethan said, joining her at the wall, "I've been thinking about enlisting." Sophia studied his young face. "Because of you, what you represent service, sacrifice, something bigger than yourself." "Those are good reasons," Sophia said slowly. "But make sure it's for you, not because you're impressed by my story. The Corps will take everything you've got and demand more. Be sure you're ready to pay that price. Were you?" Sophia's hand touched her hidden dog tags, no longer a secret shame. "Every damn day, Ethan, and I'd do it again, but that's me." "You need your own answer." As she took another order, Sophia caught her reflection in the bar's mirror. The woman staring back wasn't to the naive 18-year-old who de-enlisted or the broken veteran who tried to vanish. She was something new, forged in service and tempered by choosing to serve again, differently. Warriors don't need recognition, they serve. It was her motto now, her answer to the occasional reporter seeking the biker bar Marine story. She served coffee, cleaned tables, listened to stories, and created a safe space. It wasn't Fallujah, with no medals to earn, but it was her mission, and she'd execute it with the same dedication as every mission before. The eagle, globe, and anchor on her back, once a hidden burden, now stood as a testament to all who entered O'Connell's roadhouse. This was sacred ground where veterans were understood, civilians welcomed, and dignity upheld. Here, a United States Marine stood watch not with a rifle, but a coffee pot, not in a combat zone, but a roadside bar. Still serving, still protecting, still faithful. Semper Fidelis, always faithful to the cause, her fallen brothers, her defined by a new mission. Sofia Martinez had found peace not by hiding from war, but by serving in peace. And O'Connell's roadhouse would never be the same.